Yeah, Professor, si Foreign Affairs.
Ano na eh. He changed his mind about na it's none of our business. And today, sabi niya, well, he tweeted that we have filed a diplomatic protest. You think, what else can we do apart from that? Kasi nagdi-diplomatic protest tayo lang, parang wala naman nangyayari. What else can we do? What else? How can we follow through on this diplomatic protest?
I think the diplomatic protest is an appropriate means of conveying, communicating to China, no, our response, our reaction to the enactment of that law, given how China has been implementing its legislation. Okay. It is the proper communication, the proper response, no, between us, especially since we still have bilateral relations between us, no. But further than, in addition to that, no, the Philippines should now talk with the ASEAN countries first, who are similarly situated, no, where China could also claim that they are exercising their jurisdiction and therefore implicitly threatening the use of force in their waters. No? We all have to have the same position. That's the only way to slow China down on this.
Professor,
no?
speaking of same position, in a tweet, Secretary Locsin said this is essentially a verbal threat of war to any country that defies the law. That's the tweet. It's not necessarily what's in the formal diplomatic protest, but is that a proper framing of it, especially as we try to pull ASEAN in?
I think it is the proper way to look at it, no? Because China Coast Guard, it's not a civilian service, it's a military service, and they basically are now authorized to use force in waters that they claim to be under their jurisdiction, no? And as I said, no, it's fine if it's really just their waters, their own territorial sea, but we know from previous experience in the last 3 years that they try to exercise that jurisdiction even in waters that are not their own. And so it's a military service carrying out an act of aggression against your ships, whether they're private or public.
So, but beyond, Prof, beyond a diplomatic protest, sabi nga ni Senator Tolentino in his privileged speech, no, wala na raw siyang maisip gawin. Wala raw siyang naiisip na pwede nating gawin. Do you agree with that? Or is there something else we can do?
Well, if it's only the two of us, China and the Philippines, then maybe that's the end of it, because diplomatic protest is the only thing you can do short of actual hostilities at this point, no?
Yes.
Because hostilities is the next step, and we are not going to start that. No, we have a constitutional policy against using war, no, as an instrument of national policy. So we cannot be the one to initiate that. What we can do is essentially invoke self-defense if China does carry out that threat against us, basically. No? But that's only if there's only two of you. That's if we're thinking about this only as something that only we should act on. No? What we need to do is think more broadly, no? And accept that, look, it's not just us. There are other nations that are similarly situated as us. And if we were to unite in our positions, then that would make us stronger. No?
Speaking of broadening,
and China would back off, I believe, no, because
Yeah.
unity among the ASEAN nations is something that really they do not like.